Chapter 661. On the screen, the two Japanese players who had entered the wilderness were attacked by Bo Jio and her team. Why bother killing the assassin? They couldn't catch up. Assassins were known for their speed. Even with a bit of HP left, the experienced Lin Chintao wasn't afraid. He met up with his team and ran back to the city to heal. As for the two players behind him, they were foolish. They didn't know that assassins could be used as bait besides killing. Of course, he wasn't the one who had said such shameless words. He was only doing this because of Little Spade's orders. That was why Little Spade was such a cunning person. In the future, he would definitely tell the newbies to be careful when they met Little Spade as an assassin. Especially when he ran far away, they shouldn't chase after him. It was highly possible that he had purposely appeared for them to see so that they could chase after him. It was so that they could chase after him until he met up with his team. Then, he would turn around and kill them. Needless to say, such shamelessness suited his taste. Lin Chintao laughed as he returned to the city. His voice was devilish, causing Luo Luojiang to fall off her chair. But even so, the valiant Luo Luojiang didn't forget to move to kill. A single fireball would cause the two players to lose HP and faint. At this moment, the archer wouldn't have to use a big move to kill one of them. However, he did not expect the opponent's mage to release a rain spell at this time. F***CK. I'm going to die. He thought he was dead. Unexpectedly, the tank controlled by the youngster beside him crouched forward. It wasn't the dying player, it was the enemy sorcerer. This squat was simply perfect and beautiful. The rain spell was interrupted instantly. He shot an arrow over and the dying player died. At this moment, Luo Luojiang used another big move. The tank, who had wanted to kill the archer, retreated instantly. He was left with low HP. If he hadn't sprinted, he would have died as well. The enemy sorcerer was left with the most HP and his maneuvers were impressive. If he hadn't come out, even that meat shield would have been killed by them. However, the outcome of this team battle was already very obvious. 3 of the Japanese had died but none of them died. Lin Chintao, the assassin, had returned with full HP. This meant that they could continue to kill the last person under the defense tower. But in the next second, Lin Chintao paused. He looked at the person on the screen who had taken a step back and raised his eyebrows. How did this mage suddenly become so smart? Indeed, I was almost drenched to death by him just now. His calculations were really good, he was sure he could trap all of us before he used his big move. The 4 of us lost HP rapidly in his rain spell. If it wasn't for Little Spade, he would have killed 2 of us and crippled 1. Fortunately, Little Spade cut off his rain spell. The young man smiled, not at all modest. I've played this mage before, I know its weakness. You're amazing, aren't you? Lin Chintao wanted to grab the mouse pad. The youngster whispered, pay attention to the opponent's freezing skills. This time we won't kill him. Don't get close to him and attack the tower first. Lin Chintao narrowed his eyes. No, he wasn't that strong just now. Chapter 662. I think so. Luo Luojiang chimed in. Besides, his positioning and calculations are extremely precise. Honestly, I suspect he's better at sorcerer than me. But this time, I managed to gain some kills because I developed better than him. If we had faced each other at the start, I wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Lin Chintao raised an eyebrow. Better than what you can use as a sorcerer? How is that possible? Sister Luo Luo, you're the top sorcerer in China. Only the top players in the world would be better than you, but the top players wouldn't play such games. Luo Luojiang lifted her lips. It does sound unbelievable, but Chintao, don't forget, this is the Japanese server. You're saying that there's a high chance that we'll meet the host team, Japan? The number 1 team in Asia? Luo Luojiang narrowed her eyes. It shouldn't be the official team, they aren't that weak. They aren't bad. Don't forget what kind of formation the 5 of us have. Regardless of which team's reserve team in the country, they would probably be defeated by us in less than 5 minutes. Yet, they managed to hold on for such a long time. This might be the difference between China and Tokyo's esports. In terms of nurturing new esports players, China is still lacking. Lin Chintao paused for a moment before replying, "Before you guys arrived, these reserve troops already killed me. How strong do you think the official Japanese team is?" "I don't know." The archer noticed the problem. Yunhu's voice was deep. "You have to ask Luo Luo, she's the only one who has fought against the Japanese." Luo Luojiang was silent for 2 seconds before replying, "I've never been beaten so badly." Her words caused everyone to pause, except for Bojiu. Luo Luojiang wasn't afraid to talk about her past. Every member of the Japanese are like the top almighties in the country. Their captain and vice-captain are both world-class players. There isn't anyone in the country with such a title. Even Qin Mo was disqualified because of his absence. That's why I can't tell you how strong the Japanese are. I don't wish to meet them. Haven't we already? The young man touched his bangs, his side profile handsome and evil. I say, brothers, are you done chatting? Standing here waiting for people to revive and start a new round of scheming. I'm so handsome, but I also get tired. Meow. Princess appeared in the camera. Only then did everyone laugh and regain their previous liveliness. After the party was formed, the middle road was unobstructed, and they reached the other side of the city. The enemy wizard is here. Lin Chintao didn't know why, but when he saw the mage standing there, he felt a sense of apprehension. It was probably because he had been frozen by the mage and lost more than half of his HP. Now, he felt that the mage was too dangerous. Moreover, the other party's rain array was so powerful that it was hard to deal with it. If he's really stronger than you, I'm saying if. Lin Chintao said as he hid. Sister Luo Luo, who do you think he is? Chapter 663. Ka-cha. The moment she heard the name, Bojio's screen went black. It wasn't just her, even Qin Mo, who was on the other end of the video call, heard Hoshino's name. The youngster's fingers paused in that instant. It was so obvious that Qin Mo's hand paused as well. But very quickly, the youngster turned to the left. The coldness in Qin Mo's eyes dissipated. On the other end, Bojio tilted her head. Princess's cat face was raised up proudly, with a white plug in her mouth. She was showing off her prowess. He had an expression that said, "This is the king's territory, you foolish human, submit." Bojio arched a brow. It wasn't practical to plug in the power and log in at this moment. On the other end, Qin Mo was still watching. He watched as the youngster placed her arm behind her back and signed the contract. Then, he asked coldly, "Why? Not playing anymore?" Bojio picked up her phone, glancing towards the direction of Princess, who was walking like a cat. The power is in someone's mouth. Qin Mo took a moment before commenting, "Ever since he started following you, he has become more mischievous." Bojio stood up. "Brother Mo, be honest, isn't he more picky? When he's with you, he's always lying down and allowing you to touch him. But when he's with me, he's a little tsundere." Qin Mo replied faintly, "It has to do with his aura." "What aura?" Bojio took a sip of water, leaning against the bookshelf. Qin Mo closed the proposal in his hands, passing it to Assistant Zhang before replying slowly, "Offensive aura." "Bojio, the WeChat group is ringing." Before the youngster could react, Qin Mo swiped open his tablet. "They are all looking for you." That was when Bojio realized that the power outage was a trap within a trap in the game. She walked over with a cup of water and opened the WeChat group. A string of "little spade" popped up. Lin Chintao had sent 3 messages in one go. F***CK. Little spade, what's going on? Did you disconnect? How could you disconnect at such a crucial moment? Without little spade blocking in front of me, it doesn't feel safe. I've never missed you so much. Little Spade. Of course, other than Lin Chintao, there were other members. However, everyone was more reserved. Everyone sent 6 little dots in the group. Bo Jiao caressed her nose and started to type. Sorry, the power is cut. The power is cut? Lin Chintao's expression said, don't joke around, or I'll scam you too. Bo Jiao decided to take a photo of Princess, who was still in the midst of posing, and send it to the group. Lin Chintao asked, wait, what's wrong with the cat? Why does it have to be concave? Have you ever considered the feelings of us gamers? He obviously hasn't considered it, Bo Jiao replied. Lin Chintao didn't speak for 10 seconds before sending a crying emoji. Someone's interest was piqued. Little brother Tao, were you tortured to tears again? No, I won, Lin Chintao said confidently. Lin Feng was embarrassed. Then why are you still crying? He died the most times. Yunhu was calm. It's indeed Lin Chintao's style, said Lin Feng. Coco, agreed. Chiniguang, agreed. Zhao Sanpang, agreed. Lin Chintao shouted, shut up, you peeping bastard. Chapter 664. Lin Chintao, I will never forgive him. Zhao Sanpang, aw, I can't hit him. Xiangnan's Xiao appeared, asking calmly, where's practice? In an instant, Zhao Sanpang turned invisible again. Lin Chintao laughed heartily. Luo Luojiang came out. I just asked him. Lin Chintao. Luo Luojiang sent a bandit emoticon. It's indeed Hoshino. This time, the youngster didn't pause, even asking naturally, how did you know? Luo Luojiang chuckled lightly as she sent a voice message, acting like a mature lady. When I asked, he didn't reply. Under normal circumstances, if you ask someone that, they would definitely say, how is that possible, but he didn't even bother replying. Spade Z, proof to the contrary. World's most handsome fatty, F***CK, why didn't you tell me Hoshino was here? Lin Chintao, he, is it good for the name above to be so fake? Zhao Sanpang. World's most handsome fatty, who's Zhao Sanpang? I've never heard of him. Lin Chintao, keep acting. World's most handsome fatty, don't mind the details, let's talk about Hoshino. Xiangnan Xiao, let's talk about your practice, final warning. This time, Zhao Sanpang really went offline. But the Professional Alliance's chat group was in a frenzy because of Hoshino's name. Someone asked, is it really him? Luo Luojiang, their fighting style is similar. How's his skill? Luo Luojiang, after Little Spade went offline, he went for a 1v3. He died and so did the 3 of us. Amazing. After these words were spoken, there was a period of silence. Luo Luojiang, Yunhu, and Lin Chintao were all top players in the country. Even with the 3 of them working together, they could only fight Hoshino to a draw. The gap was so obvious that it was hard to ignore it. Just Hoshino alone was enough to make things difficult for them. Just how strong was the Japanese team? Everyone's heart was stretched taut like a string. Chen Yiguang was the first to speak. After the National League, there will be another match against the Japanese. I wonder why they said it this way. It was proposed by Tokyo. Luo Luojiang's voice deepened. They said that the Japanese are currently on a world tour. After the Korean side, it will be our turn. They hope that we can work together and they won't be sending out their strongest team. They specially emphasized that it's just a cultural exchange in esports. Lin Chintao raised his eyebrows. Cultural exchange, he. Do your best to win, no matter who will fight in the future. MMH, Lin Chintao laughed. I'm going downstairs to train. Little Spade, see you in the semifinals. See you in the semifinals. The moment she exited the WeChat page, she heard a voice beside her ear. You seem to care a lot about Hoshino. That voice had a magnetic quality to it, and it was calm and steady. Bojo glanced up and saw the Almighty looking at her through the video call. His brows were deep and his eyes were extremely dark, giving off the vibe of a devil. Even though he was dressed in a pure white hospital gown, it didn't stop his natural oppressive aura and perceptive abilities. A little. Bojo smiled sloppily. After all, he's an esports player that he likes. He's handsome and has good skills, so he would definitely care. Like? Chapter 665. She hadn't expected the youngster to give such an answer. Chin Mo's eyes dimmed. Bojo didn't notice the change. Firstly, they were separated by a screen. Secondly, all her thoughts were on how to deal with the Almighty's next question. To her surprise, the Almighty didn't continue questioning her. That was good for her. But there was one thing. There were so many matches. Bojo had a basic understanding of the competition. During the National League, the Japanese would be the guests. At that time, she and Hoshino might very well. You seem to like a lot of people. The low voice beside her interrupted her thoughts once more. Besides, it didn't seem like a compliment. I'm more universal. She couldn't afford to hurt someone with a dark history. Chin Mo's voice was calm. You're so universal that you've become a confessor. Amazing, wall-jumping scholar. Do you need me to create a name list for you to be remembered forever? MMH? Bojo, who would write their dark history into a register and leave their name in the annals of history? The Almighty was being sarcastic again. As they chatted, Bojo realized that the Almighty's words were more lethal than words. In the end, he started to list the names, each one of the people she had confessed to. Bojo promised, that's all in the past. Oh. Am I on your list of people from the past? Chin Mo asked casually. Bojo smiled devilishly. Brother Mo, don't worry, you'll always be in the present. Is that so? Chin Mo laughed, his voice carrying a hook. Since that's the case, do you want to turn gay for me? In that instant, Bojo's heart skipped a beat. But she quickly regained her composure. The Almighty was getting better at flirting. She had almost fallen for it. Brother Mo, you can't make such a joke. Chin Mo watched as the youngster popped a lollipop into her mouth. Her dashing and arrogant expression made it seem as though she was treating his words as a joke. It was fine as a joke. Chin Mo realized a problem the moment he said it. It was best to say it face to face. If he didn't say it in person, no one could guarantee that a certain someone wouldn't run away in the middle of the night after knowing that he was serious. Chin Mo plugged in his earpiece and changed the topic. Were there any problems during the competition? Nothing at the moment. Bojo didn't intend to tell the Almighty about what had happened that day, mainly because there wasn't a need. After the competition, she could get back at him if she was unhappy. Chin Mo glanced at Bojo, noticing the redness in the youngster's eyes. He frowned. Get some eye drops. Again, Bojo muttered. The Almighty was even stricter than he Honghua. Chin Mo placed the cup down and said, go. It was indeed inconvenient for one person to apply eye drops. Hence, Bojo could only keep one eye open and the other closed. It had to be said that the Almighty's voice was really nice. It had a kind of hypnotic magnetism. At the start, Bojo could still hear his words, but gradually, her eyelids started to droop. Hence, Bojo didn't know that after she had fallen asleep, Bojo's expression changed. The person on the other end of the video call didn't forget to turn to look at her even during the meeting. That gaze was filled with pampering. Chapter 666. Fu Family's Villa. Bojo wasn't sure how long she had slept for. Just as the sun was about to rise, she opened her eyes. Her fingers twitched, but the phone in her hands had already shut down due to the lack of battery. Even so, the phone was still warm. Was the Almighty still alive? Bojo arched a brow as she thought of the possibility. He hugged the princess beside him and warmed her hands. She had to admit that the Almighty was despicable. He hadn't hung up the video call in order to drain her battery. She could do the same next time. This time, she would sleep. It wasn't her style to sleep until 11 a.m. when there weren't any competitions or exams. But today, the internet had exploded because of a gaming video. The title was, "I was watching a match on the Japanese server. I want to know which Almighty's alternate account is it." The post had over 1,000 replies. Amazing. This teamwork is so cool. OP, I'm impressed that you dare to play on the Japanese server. Little Bean Sack. Why does the sorcerer's technique seem so familiar? My goddess Luo Luojiang. It must be her, she must be the one who can control the sorcerer so well. I'm here to expose the assassin that died the most. That's right, it's Lin Chintao. Is the support my Almighty Yun? Is the archer my dragon? Even the loyal fans can recognize their Almighty, why isn't the tank recognized? I'm not sure, but what exactly is going on? Different teams, are they teaming up? Don't you know? The adults have such a hobby, but it isn't common. Could the tank be Zhao Sanpang? No, my fatty isn't a fan of towers. Honestly, the tank isn't played in such a manner. It isn't normal for him to treat himself as an assassin. If he dies under the tower, he would be sending himself to death. Are you saying that the tank isn't good? I don't think so. But he isn't a scammer, he's the MVP. Tank? MVP. Under normal circumstances, a tank wouldn't be the MVP. It isn't strange for him to kill every single time. All in all, it's because of Goddess Luo Luo and the others. If not, he would have died easily. Am I the only one who thinks that he's playing this way because he knows that Goddess Luo Luo and the others are behind him? Are you saying that this is his cooperation? My God, I'm getting more and more interested in this meat shield. Who is he? Are there any fans who claim it? Unfortunately, no matter how many times this post was covered, still, no one claimed this meat shield. The onlookers were really curious. After all, it was rare for a tank to play like this. Until the Supreme Alliance team battle that day. Spade Z used the meat shield. Wait a minute. My big spade isn't an archer anymore. This is already the fourth one. We still lack a support. He really is an all-rounder. I want to see how my big spade acts as a tank. In the end, he saw an incomparably familiar scene. He was supposed to be a meat shield, but he leaped into the tower to kill. He was clearly a meat shield, but he had set the tempo of the entire arena. He was supposed to be a tank, but he became the team controller and became the MVP. What was going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. A Spade fan said seriously, I think I can go to the Japanese server's battle video and claim Big Spade. What do you guys think? Chapter 667. As usual, there would be a mini interview after the competition. What's more, there was still one more match before they entered the semi-finals. This match was of utmost importance. It wasn't just the fans, even the media was concerned about Bojio's character. Is it time to use support next time? The interviewer asked with a smile. After all, he had already used the other methods. In front of the camera, the young man reached out and pulled the white cat back. He said lazily, no need. No need? The host was stunned. Why? Because the Almighty didn't teach me how to play the support role before he left. Hearing this, it was not just the host. Even the fox-like smile on Manager Feng's face froze. It wasn't easy for the beautiful MC to find her voice. You mean to say that the characters you play were all taught to you by Almighty Qin recently? Bojio glanced up nonchalantly. I found my own style as a tank, but I haven't gotten used to the sorcerer and archer. I'll practice more when I'm free. The beautiful host, there was no way to continue the conversation. You're the MVP of every game, yet you still say you're not playing well. However, the others did not understand that the young man really did not play. Bo Jiu was best at being an assassin. He watched the video of the interview. The official Weibo exploded again. As a fan of the Mo and Jiu couple, there's only one sentence left in my eyes. Because the Almighty didn't teach me how to play support before he left. Big Spade, don't cry, the Almighty will teach you when he comes back. Be good, pat my head. To be able to become an all-rounder in such a short period of time, I just want to say that he's super cool. Han Susu and Wu Jin were also holding their phones. Han Susu couldn't help but reply, hee hee, keep bragging. You can become an all-rounder after 10 days of practice. Spade Z, you're such a hypocrite. The Spade fans didn't respond to his words. Fan Qin said, Spade Z started off as an assassin, and being an assassin requires a high level of control and positioning. Plus, with Spade Z's hand speed, as long as he understands the other character's attributes and the usage of some big moves, along with Almighty Qin's all-round guidance, it won't be impossible for him to reach his current level. I'll say this first, I'm a fan of Almighty Qin, and I won't pretend to be a passerby. Putting aside other questions, I'll just say one thing, Spade Z's recent matches have a slight change, and that's the geometric attack curve. What I, Almighty Qin, am best at. Flunkies can't understand how a genius can see the geometric attack curve when he's playing a game. Am I the only one who noticed this? This seems to be the first time I, Almighty Qin, personally taught someone, right? Don't say any more. Dog food, full of dog food. Pa. Han Susu slammed her phone. These CP fans are really crazy, what dog food? After saying this, she seemed to have noticed Wu Jin's ugly expression. She turned around and held Wu Jin's hand. Sister Wu, those people don't know of your existence. You and Brother Qin are a couple, what's the big deal about that gay? Wu Jin smiled and put down the coffee cup in her hand. Why didn't you take revenge on him in the recent matches? Chapter 668. That depends on the higher-ups. Wu Jin glanced at the contents of the official Weibo, her eyes sinking into the darkness, looking gloomy. We're doing things according to the law, right? Han Susu smiled. Of course, Sister Wu is the fairest. But no matter what, someone like that should be taught a lesson. I used to like him so much, but he ignored me. He's so cold-blooded. If he liked other girls, I could have snatched them away. But he just had to like a guy, and he even liked Brother Qin. He's blind. So what if the Han family wasn't good enough for him? How much money had she invested to support him? Yet, he didn't reciprocate and even acted like this. Sister Wu, don't worry, before you catch him, I'll let him know the consequences of angering you and me in Jiang City. To put it bluntly, Han Susu relied on her power and influence. Whenever she met someone, she would throw some money at them and they would automatically support her. For example, the Spade fans she had interacted with previously. But the youngster didn't fall for it. She had been indignant, and after finding out he was gay, her outburst suited her. Because there were many types of girls in this world. One of them was Han Susu. From the start, Bo Jiu hadn't wanted to interact with her because she had already seen through her character. After a few interactions, Han Susu always looked at Shui Yaoyao with disdain, regardless of whether others had offended her. There wasn't a problem with using money to solve everything. But once she used money, the other party had to reciprocate. Bo Jiu had never thought of herself as a salesperson. She played games, not services. Hence, when the Spade fans came looking for her, Bo Jiu glanced at Qin Xiaodong, standing up slowly. She stuffed a hand into her pocket. Say it again, who is outside? They seem to be your old fans. Qin Xiaodong's voice was low. They want you to give them an explanation. Bo Jiu chuckled. An explanation? They came to my house and want me to give them an explanation? With that, the youngster narrowed her eyes, her gaze sharp. All right, I'll give them an explanation. Wait a minute. Qin Xiaodong rubbed his eyes. The young master's expression was full of hostility. It really didn't look like he was going to give an explanation, but more like he was going to pick a fight. The dozen or so people outside were still making a ruckus. Half of them were people who often hung out with Han Susu. The rest were Spade fans from before. All of their words were the same as before: "I like you so much, how can you treat us like this?" This time, she wasn't merciful. Without saying a word, he punched the troublemaker who was pushing the driver, Uncle Wang. That punch was very vicious. The man was in so much pain that his face was deformed. The self-proclaimed Spade fans shrieked, "How could you hit him, you?" The scream was not over yet. Bo Jiao laughed, her voice cold. "Unfortunately, there's a camera outside my house. You came to cause trouble and even pushed my Uncle Wang 3 times. His glasses are still at my feet, it's not too much for me to hit him. You should be glad that you're all girls. If not, I would have beaten all of you up." With that, the youngster swung her hand and helped Uncle Wang up, her gaze icy. Xiaodong. Chapter 669. Bo Jiao glanced up. "Call the police." The self-proclaimed fans of Spade City sneered at the youngster. "I never expected you to treat us like this. What did we do to you? Why are you calling the police?" Bo Jiao walked over. "What grade are you in?" The young girl, who was obviously in university, stilled. "What do you mean?" "I was just asking. It seems like you are already of age." Bo Jiao's voice was calm. "That's good. Breaking into private property is enough to detain you for 15 days. The young girl clenched her fists tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We like you so much." The word "like" is insulting enough to make me cry. Bo Jiao's gaze was sharp. "I don't care if you cause a ruckus in the competition, but you caused a ruckus in my house and hurt my people. Being used once can be considered innocent, but being used to hurt people all the time isn't pitiful, it's indiscriminate. You can do whatever you want to me, but why do you think I should tolerate you when you hurt my family? Why do you think I should tolerate you? Just because of your unrequited love? We will definitely turn from fans to haters." The police arrived. The people were still shouting. Bo Jiao carried the spinning princess up. "Hurry and turn, I'm innocent for being liked so much." Qin Xiaodong wanted to laugh because he could hear the helplessness in her voice. But the young master's next sentence made him confused again. "You should follow them to the police station and wait outside. Soon, someone will come to bail them out. Let's see who bailed them out." Bo Jiao caressed the snow-white body of the cat, a nonchalant expression on her face. Qin Xiaodong was puzzled. "Young master, how do you know someone will bail them out? It isn't possible so soon. They don't look very old and it would take some time to inform their parents. The person using them doesn't need to be informed." With that, Bo Jiao pressed down on the cat's tail. "Aren't you going?" "Ah!" Qin Xiaodong exclaimed. So his young master didn't really want to take care of them for a few days. Instead, he knew the mastermind would take action if he did so. For some reason, Qin Xiaodong felt that his young master had left some leeway for the people who used to like him. If he didn't leave any leeway, young master would definitely bring his lawyer over personally. Even if someone came to bail him out, he might not ask anyone to bail these people out. However, the young master was really ruthless towards the instigators. What were they trying to do by directly grabbing him like this? After the last shareholders' meeting, Qin Xiaodong had seen young master talking to a lawyer. That lawyer was famous in Rivertown. It was said that as long as he accepted a job, he would never lose. However, this person only took orders based on the person. You can't use him just because you have money. How did young master come into contact with that person and make him work for young master? This was a mystery in Qin Xiaodong's heart. In fact, how could a hacker not have a good lawyer? It was easy for Bo Jiao to make someone work for her. promised to help him track down his ex-wife. Speaking of which, they were partners at most. However, what kind of beauty would abandon such a handsome guy and run away to a faraway place? It's probably because he's not as handsome as the Almighty. Bojo hugged the cat and muttered to herself. She paused because of the pain in her stomach. The princess was still stretching out her claws, swearing not to be a hand warmer anymore. He didn't expect the youth to be so different today. Chapter 670. Every cold-blooded girl would understand. The real pain didn't start from the day the relatives arrived. It started from the day before. After Bojo was done, she carried Princess upstairs. Princess had expected the youngster to open his laptop and create a profile picture or the basement where he could run around and play with the ball. Unexpectedly, this time, the young man just lay down on the bed and pulled away the quilt. The side of his face looked sickly pale. Honestly, the rascal with the weird aura didn't want to play with him anymore. Princess wasn't used to it. He tilted his head and looked left and right. He had an arrogant, round face. He seemed to be deep in thought. When he was done, he reached out with his paw and used his cat cushion to touch the youngster's face. The youngster didn't wake up. Princess didn't feel like a king at home at all. He glanced at the youngster and dragged his voice. Meow, it was a low meow. With one last leap, he jumped onto the bed and curled his warm body into the youngster's arms. Forget it, on account of its master, he would take care of this youngster. Bojo was woken up by a phone call. It was the little butler, Chen Xiaodong. Young master. I saw it. The person who bailed them out. Bojo opened her eyes, her silver hair falling down. She asked slowly, who is it? Chen Xiaodong sounded incredulous. It's Miss Han. That's weird, doesn't she like you? She even wanted to support you, how did she? Oh, it's her. Xiaodong, head over to Lawyer Bai's place and tell him I'm suing Miss Han. Get him to hand over all the evidence and leave the rest to Lawyer Bai. Chen Xiaodong glanced at the clock. Xiaodong, head over to Lawyer Bai's place and tell him I'm suing Miss Han. Chen Xiaodong nodded. After hanging up, he realized that his young master's voice was too hoarse. Was he sick? Chen Xiaodong frowned. His young master couldn't fall sick at this moment, there was a competition tomorrow. But anyone who encountered such a situation wouldn't be affected. When his young master had been splashed with coke, his heart had ached. This time, the other party had come to their house. It was too much. He had to make the culprit with the surname Han suffer. If it was Lawyer Bai, he probably wouldn't be afraid of the Han family. Thinking of this, Chen Xiaodong quickened his pace. As a friend who had just bailed them out, Han Susu comforted the few Spade fans and specially found a place to drink. I didn't expect Big Spade to be so ruthless. Han Susu sighed. Is such a person worth liking? The Spade fans lowered their lids, their eyes filled with resentment. Han Susu hid her smile and pushed the fruit salad forward. Eat something. There are many other players in the esports circle. He's not the only one. When she said this, Han Susu felt that she had vented her anger. But what Han Susu didn't expect was that her party had just begun, and she was about to take them to karaoke. Two police officers walked towards her. Behind the policeman was a man in a suit. Chapter 671. Han Susu smiled, wanting to strike up a conversation. But the person spoke before she could. My side is charging you with slander and instigating others to harass my client. Can you and your group of friends head to the police station? They had just been released and now they were heading to the police station. Was there something wrong with them? Han Susu was obviously not going to agree. I paid bail and now you're asking us to go back. Don't you know who I am and who my brother is? How dare you accuse me? I'll make sure you can't stay in the legal world. That's the legal world, not the legal world. As the man spoke, He reached out to press down on his pure black headphones. Don't your fans have any common sense? Bo Jiao sat up. They seem to have caught her. Of course. The person turned, his face clear. They're even reporting her family background. Bo Jiao arched a brow. This was Han Susu's style. The person was a lawyer. Lawyers didn't like people repeating the same topic over and over again, thinking they were invincible. Han Susu was still shouting, but this time, she was shouting at the police officer. The person walked over, saying, I even dared to accuse your brother, what more you? Han Susu's face froze. She hadn't expected anyone to arrest her in Jiang City. What was even more unexpected was that after entering the police station, what she faced was not an ordinary situation, but a small interrogation room. All of a sudden, all the energy that she had been yelling just now was gone, leaving only fear. Han Susu had been arrested. As a police officer, Wu Zhen would definitely know about it. But since Wu Zhen had been transferred to the crime squad, these matters weren't within her jurisdiction. Hence, when she came to visit Han Susu's statement had already been recorded. During the interrogation, unrelated personnel weren't allowed in. Hence, even if Wu Zhen came, she would have to wait for the lawyer to finish questioning before she could see Han Susu. What bothered Wu Zhen the most was that the person interrogating Han Susu had the surname Bai. Wu Zhen knew how difficult it was to deal with this lawyer. But who exactly had invited him over? Wu Zhen was still in her uniform and couldn't be too obvious. Once lawyer Bai left, Wu Zhen used her connections to meet Han Susu. When Han Susu saw her, it was as if she had seen her savior. Sister Wu, give them some money and ask them to let me out quickly. This is not a place for people to stay. It's not about money. Wu Zhen looked at her written confession and thought about the others. Her eyes darkened. The lawyer who is accusing you isn't someone to be trifled with. The questions he asked you are all criminal, so I can't get you out for the time being. He might use this against you and find out who hired him. Who else could it be other than that disgusting gay? Han Susu clenched her fists. I heard them talking on the phone. He was the one who hired this lawyer to arrest me. Good, very good, see how I deal with him after we get out. Hearing this name again, Wu Zhen's eyes darkened. Since that's the case, we should repay him. The sky outside was gradually sinking. At the Fu family's villa. Chapter 672. The slight dampness was obvious. Even though it wasn't a lot, it didn't feel right. Her forehead was covered in sweat. It wasn't painful, but it was a huge drop. Her lower abdomen felt as though there was an ice cube placed on it, unable to warm up. Be it in the past or now, the moment it happened, Bo Jiao felt as though half of her life had been cut off. Chen Xiaodong thought his young master was having a fever and kept asking, should I call the doctor? Bo Jiao sat on the sofa, holding onto a steaming cup of ginger brown sugar water. Her voice was lower than usual. No need. How's the matter? Everything is going well. Chen Xiaodong paused. But I'm afraid the Han family won't be willing. Bo Jiao placed the brown sugar water down, her fingers pressing on her lower abdomen, her voice faint. Even if the Han family isn't willing, they will have to endure it. Chen Xiaodong watched the aloof youngster on the sofa, a sudden realization dawning on him. Even though he knew his young master was different from before. But could a person really change so much? It was as though he was a completely different person. Bo Jiao seemed to have noticed Chen Xiaodong's gaze. She tilted her head and arched a brow. No, nothing. Chen Xiaodong guessed that he must have been triggered by the past. If he didn't explode in silence, he would die in silence. Young master must have been enlightened after his death. That's why he turned over a new leaf. Bo Jiao smiled, not saying a word. She knew that Chen Xiaodong was doubtful. No matter who it was, the more they interacted with her, the more they would notice the difference. Han Susu shouldn't have ordered those people to cause trouble at the Fu family. She hadn't wanted to bother with such a person. Besides, it wasn't worth her time. Besides, it was the National League. She would rather use the time to practice her hand speed. But someone wasn't willing to give her the piece. Bojo glanced at the time on the clock. From the looks of it, the Han family should have started looking for her. As expected, another 15 minutes passed. Bojo's phone rang. The youngster lowered her lids, swiping the screen with her fingers. The Han family has made their move. The voice on the other end of the phone was calm. They have informed the media to expose you. The young man chuckled. Do those with power and influence really think that they don't have to bear any criminal responsibility for trespassing and slandering others? Do they really think that they can continue to be lawless? Probably. These two words carried a thick sense of mockery. The young man smiled faintly. Then let's teach them a lesson. I heard that you have a lot of evidence of the Han family's bribery. Yes, but it's expensive. The youngster's thin lips curled up slightly. Coincidentally, the one thing I don't lack the most is money. Hackers were generally not very poor. Not to mention that she was from an aristocratic family. 9 accounts, one of which was enough to buy an island. It was enough to buy the Han family's evidence. Sure, but you have to be careful about one thing. Bai Qinya closed the document. Dressed in a suit, he said, the Han family and the Qin family are old friends. Bojo's gaze deepened. I've never been afraid of the Qin family. Chapter 673. What identity can I have? The youngster leaned back. In his arms was a snow-white cat with a big head. He was wearing a black t-shirt, and the curve of his lips made him look like a demon from a comic book. He was handsome and evil, and his eyes were shining. I'm just an ordinary high school student. Meow. Princess looked up. Youngster, when you said that, did you look at your expression in the mirror? It wasn't ordinary at all. That night, South City Police Station. Han Susu had never expected things to be so serious. Her surname was Han. Why didn't these people seem to be afraid of her? And where was her brother? Why hadn't he appeared yet? Han Susu was so cold she was getting irritated. She slammed her hands on the table. Phone. I want to make a phone call. I want to get a lawyer. Miss Han was used to being arrogant and didn't even care about the police. Seeing her attitude, the people on duty didn't give her the phone even if they could. There were so many cases to work on. They didn't have time to serve her. Han Susu couldn't sit still and started to make a fuss. The person who made a fuss threw a phone to her and stood beside her. Han Susu took the phone and dialed a familiar number. It rang 3 times before it was picked up. Brother, what are you doing? Do you know Susu? Before she could finish, she was interrupted. Something happened at home, you have to suffer for a day. When Han Susu heard this, she was unhappy. Brother, I'm your sister. How can your business be more important than mine? What do you mean by let me suffer for a day? Do you know how broken and cold this police station is? I don't care, give them some money and get a lawyer. Hurry and get me out. The person on the phone didn't speak. This made Han Susu even more unhappy. Brother, what's wrong with you? Speak. I won't get a lawyer for you. It was obvious that the voice on the phone had changed. It was old and sounded like a mezzo-soprano. I always knew you had a bad personality like your mother, but I didn't expect you to be so dirty, ordering people to do bad things. How did the Han family end up with someone like you? Han Susu's back stiffened. Grandma, don't call me grandma. Old Madame Han was very righteous. You should bear the consequences of your own actions. Han Susu's face paled. She didn't expect her grandmother to come back. Her grandmother had never liked her since she was young. In fact, Han Susu had never seen such a vicious old woman who insisted on meddling in her affairs. For her 16th birthday, she invited so many classmates to her house to climb the ladder. Originally, she wanted to show off her wealth. This old woman was great. She said that in the Han family, whoever did that would be kicked out. This was a family rule. Han Susu clenched her fists. She knew that no matter what she said, her grandmother would not pity her. She screamed, "Dad, Dad!" Her father doted on her. Since her grandma was back, her father must be there too. Finally, the voice on the other side changed. "Susu, calm down. Don't yell." Han Susu burst into tears. "Dad, why is Grandma so cruel? She wants me to stay in the police station and not leave." In fact, the phone was on speaker mode. Old Madam Han listened on the side. Hearing this, his eyes darkened. Subsequently, Chapter 674. Susu, how can you say that about Grandma? The old lady's slightly hunched back was still in front of her. Han Susu scoffed. Why can't I say that about her? She knows how evil she is. For you, Grandma has done everything she can to help you. Han Susu wiped her sleeves. Brother, don't worry about her, just think of a way to get me out. Let him think. What could he do? All right, I'll think about it. Old Madam Han listened to the conversation downstairs. Step by step, she sank into the darkness. It seemed like the ancients were right. Wealth didn't last 3 generations. Old man, this family was going to be finished. But the family wasn't scary. How could the human heart be like this? Times have changed, sigh. The old lady's sigh was melancholy. The Han father and son promised to get Han Susu out, regardless of the method. Spade Z's scandal was just one part of the plan. If they didn't relent, they would definitely proceed to the second step. But just as they were about to ask Han Susu to wait, the people from the prosecutor's office arrived. They didn't care if it was night time or not, they detained the father and son. When they saw old Madam Han, one of the former soldiers raised his hand and saluted. Old Madam Han knew that there was no other way. This time, there really wasn't a way. Han Susu was still gloating in the police station. She glanced at the officers on duty. Just you wait, when my father comes, all of you will be crying. She wouldn't let that gay off either. But Han Susu didn't expect that after waiting for an entire night, the bail didn't arrive. Instead, the lawyer she had thought was handsome came. He looked at her as though she was a rat or a cockroach. Han Susu had never been looked at like this before. Just you wait. Just you wait. Take her away. Bai Qianye didn't say much. In reality, there wasn't much to say, it was just a case that he would definitely win. He called the youngster. His voice was calm. Don't touch old Madam Han, continue with the rest. Understood. Bai Qianye took a puff. Where's my payment? The youngster's voice was weak. I send it to your email. Your ex-wife doesn't want to be with you, why don't you think about it? Bai Qianye's voice turned cold. This has nothing to do with you. Ah, yes, you are right. Since that's the case, she wouldn't tell him that his ex-wife is pregnant, he. Bo Jiao hung up and carried Princess over. She hadn't slept for 4 hours because of the pain last night and her expression wasn't good. But it was already the semi-finals. 1:40 p.m. How important this match was. Those who didn't play sports wouldn't know. Hence, they couldn't allow any negative news about Supreme Alliance to come out at this time. The Han family was ruthless. Then she would be even more ruthless than the Han family. At the very least, today, he had to open the game without any reservations. The youngster took the painkiller, raised his head, and sent the medicine down his throat with hot water. He lowered his gaze and tied his shoelaces. With a black backpack on his shoulders, only his black eyes could be seen from his face. Chen Xiaodong looked at him worriedly from behind. Young master, is your body really okay? Everyone knew how strong their opponent was today. Last year, they were ranked 6th in the country. What kind of concept was that? Chapter 675. The moment Chen Xiaodong thought about it, there was a knock on the door. Who could it be? Bo Jiu was still wearing her wrist guard when she glanced up. Chen Xiaodong had already opened the door. Police? The little butler was in a daze. The uniformed Wuzhen glanced at Chen Xiaodong, reaching out to push him forward. Her gaze met Bo Jiu's. Fu Jiu, we suspect that you are involved in the maiden's sacrifice incident. This is an arrest warrant, please come with us. Chen Xiaodong's eyes widened. What was that? Bo Jiu glanced over, her voice faint. I'm sorry, Officer Wu, I don't know what you're talking about. Bo Jiu glanced over, her voice faint. I'm sorry, Officer Wu, I don't know what you're talking about. Wu Zhen glanced over, her voice faint. Bring him along, head to his bedroom and bring his laptop. Wu Zhen signaled to both sides with her eyes. Bring him along. Go to his bedroom and bring the computer he used. Yes. That was how the police worked. Everything had happened too suddenly. Chen Xiaodong was still in a daze when they barged into the bedroom. Wu Zhen smiled at Bo Jiu. Do you know who told me about you? Li Mengran, she told me everything. Oh. The youngster pulled down her wrist guard, her pale face still devilishly handsome. What did she tell you? How did I confess to her? Wu Zhen narrowed her eyes. You know that's not what I'm talking about. Fu Jiu, we know each other. On account of Brother Mo, as long as you're honest, I'll make things easier for you. Officer Wu. The youngster straightened, her lips curving into a smile, her tone unhurried. I've always been a law-abiding citizen, I've never asked the police to make things easier for me. Wu Zhen chuckled. Is that so? Follow us in and we'll talk. I've got the laptop. The other two policemen walked over. Wu Zhen glanced at the youngster. Bring him away. Young master. Chen Xiaodong panicked, reaching out to grab him. But he knew it was all in vain. Fortunately, he understood his young master's lips. Inform Lawyer Bai. Chen Xiaodong hurriedly nodded, but he was panicking as he watched his young master being taken away. Lawyer Bai. Where was Lawyer Bai's phone number? No phone. Then I'll go to the military compound and look for him at the Bai residence. Wu Zhen didn't come with good intentions. Bo Jiu understood. In her past life, she had seen countless police cars. She even drove a car disguised as a police officer. But he had never sat in this position like he did today. His lower abdomen was still hurting. With the princess in his arms. The princess was a magical cat. Even though he had caused a ruckus with Bo Jiu previously, he was now extremely obedient, his gaze fixed on Wu Zhen like a tiger. Bo Jiu didn't care if she was caught. If it had been any other day, she wouldn't have cared. But today was different. He raised his hand and glanced at the watch on his wrist. There were less than 3 hours before the match. We have to get out before that happens. Officer Wu, I have a very important match today. I think you know very well what evidence do you have to arrest me now. Wu Zhen raised the notebook in her hand. This is the evidence. Number 1 middle school has always been peaceful. It was only during this period of time that there were internet incidents. I've investigated the 2 teachers who were dealt with, and they were all related to you in some way. Chapter 676. Young Master Fu, we'll know after we appraise your computer. Wu Zhen glanced at the youngster. Also, the arrest was ordered by the higher-ups, not me. I'm handling it impartially, young Master Fu, don't accuse me wrongly. Oh. Impartially? Bo Jiu lifted her lips. Miss Wu is from the crime squad, but the person you brought is an ordinary police officer. The maiden's sacrifice has always been managed by the crime squad, so the confidentiality shouldn't be low. Since when can a police officer interfere? I'm really curious about the level of impartiality here. The youngster's words hit Wu Zhen's weak spot. Wu Zhen's face froze. She had indeed hidden this operation from the crime squad. But so what? Since she had a suspect. What was wrong with arresting someone? She couldn't make decisions in the crime squad. She could always make decisions in an ordinary police station. Even if she used some tricks. She didn't think there was anything wrong. Since her family had such a background, she had to make use of it. Su's method was too roundabout. It was easy to deal with this person. If the vice-captain of Supreme Alliance didn't appear on time for the semifinals, it didn't matter if they won or lost. By then, this person would have to face endless criticism. Of course, it would be best if she lost. Because once Supreme Alliance lost, it wouldn't just be the fans who would be disappointed in Spade Z. Even Brother Mo would know that this person wasn't anything special. This person was relying on his status as a member of Supreme Alliance to get close to Brother Mo. She would get all the Supreme Alliance fans to ostracize this person. Through Su's methods, she knew how easily the fans could be incited. Strangers might not even attack Spade Z. But these fans were different. One second they said they liked him, but the next, they splashed him. She had to thank these Spade fans. Without them, she wouldn't have achieved her goal. When Wu Zhen thought of this, her displeasure at the youth's provocation dissipated. She turned to look at the cat in the youngster's arms. But the more she looked, the darker her gaze became. Princess had never allowed her to carry him. Even when she appeared at the Qin family's house, he wouldn't stop meowing. He was indeed a beast, he couldn't even tell who he should be with. Wu Zhen glanced at the cat again. When they reached the police station, Bo Jiu entered the interrogation room. Wu Zhen laughed lightly. "Let me take care of Princess." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand. The cat in the young man's arms gave her a claw. And it was Wu Zhen's face. There was a loud noise. Wu Zhen's eyes widened in pain. She wanted to drag the cat over and throw it to its death. Bo Jiu turned and pulled Princess back, her gaze cold as ice. "Officer Wu, you don't look like a police officer now." With that, the teenager turned his head and asked the other policeman, "Where's the interrogation room? Aren't you going to appraise my computer? Do you need me to tell you the password?" "No need." Wu Zhen held her chin where there were a few red marks. "Young Master Fu, don't worry. We will investigate slowly until we get to the bottom of this and clear your name." It was just one sentence. Bo Jiu knew what Wu Zhen wanted to do. This person was trying to stall for time. No one handled a case like this. However, this was China. You can't be impulsive with the police. That would disqualify her from the competition. As time passed, the youth's face turned even paler. Other than the pain, the temperature in the interrogation room was also extremely low. It wasn't a good feeling for Bo Jiu. But that wasn't important. Chapter 677. It was 12:53 p.m. Jiang City's esports competition venue. Outside the glass doors, almost 1,000 spectators were checking their tickets. It was different from the previous competitions. This was the checkpoint for the finals. From this match onwards, every match in the future would not only be broadcasted on the internet, but it would also be broadcasted on some satellite channels. They witnessed the ability of esports professionals to attract fans. Of course, no one would miss out on such a competition. From afar, every team had someone holding up a poster, usually there to support their favorite esports player. In less than an hour, the competition was about to begin. The members of the ferocious Tiger team had changed into their uniforms and were discussing their tactics. Supreme Alliance's atmosphere was different. Lin Feng turned towards the wall clock once more, his brows furrowed. "Why isn't he here yet? Is he still on the way?" someone asked. Shui Yaoyao held onto her phone, shaking her head at the others. Lin Feng's eyes dimmed, sensing something was amiss. Still no one picking up. How did this happen? Based on Little Spade's personality, he should have arrived long ago for such an important competition. Why wasn't he here at this hour? 12:55 p.m. The youngster's eyes darkened. She couldn't place all her hopes on Chen Xiaodong finding Bai Qianye. When the police came in, Bo Jiao said calmly that she was going to call her lawyer, but in reality, she was calling Feng Yi. Wu Zhen wasn't aware of this. Wu Zhen was still trying to get more evidence against the youngster so that he wouldn't be able to attend the competition and wouldn't be able to leave so easily. When Feng Yi received the call, the contours of his face changed. But when he received the call, there wasn't any hesitation. After hanging up, he called the lawyer in charge of all matters in the Qin family. Feng Yi knew that once he used the Qin family's connections, Almighty Qin would definitely receive the news. Almighty Qin would definitely receive the news and wouldn't pretend to be peaceful like last time. He might even stop his treatment and come back immediately. At this stage, Feng Yi didn't want to think about it anymore. This matter could only be resolved with the Qin family's connections. On the other side, Chen Xiaodong used all his strength to enter the military courtyard. The Bai family told him that young Master Bai had gone to the airport and it was impossible to chase him at this hour. This was probably why Bai Qianye had turned off his phone. Chen Xiaodong was so anxious that he was about to cry, but there was nothing he could do. He had never wanted someone to help him as much as he did now. He looked up at the clock hanging on the wall. 1:5. The match would begin in half an hour. Young Master was still locked up in the police station. Madam was not at home. For the first time in his life, Chen Xiaodong tasted the feeling of being helpless. South of the city, in the interrogation room, Wu Zhen sat opposite the youngster with a cup of warm water in her hand, but it wasn't for the youngster. Young Master Fu doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Bo Jiao arched a brow. She placed her left elbow on her abdomen and remained silent. Chapter 678. Bo Jiao glanced at Wu Zhen, her lips lifting into a smile. Her abnormally fair complexion made her look like a noble vampire walking in the night. Who told you I called Bai Qianye? No matter who you're calling, you'll have to bear the consequences of your crime. Wu Zhen suppressed the disgust she had for the youngster, picking up the pen beside her. Let's talk about the case. Where were you at 8 p.m. on the 26th of December? Bo Jiao replied faintly, home. Who can prove it? Wu Zhen narrowed her eyes. Bo Jiao laughed. Of course it's my family. Wu Zhen knew she wouldn't be able to make any substantial progress. She changed her direction. There aren't many people like you who are talented in hacking. Did you feel great when you stole your own account during the Jiangxing rookie selection contest? Bo Jiao glanced at Wu Zhen, her abdomen throbbing. She gathered her energy, thinking about the hidden meaning behind the question. No, I just felt that I managed to protect myself. As for stealing an account, anyone with a little knowledge of computers would be able to do it. That would make me a hacker in Officer Wu's eyes. There are way too many hackers in the world. Wu Zhen's gaze dimmed. This is the first time I've seen someone quibble. According to young Master Fu, even if you knew what happened to Li Mengran, you wouldn't feel anything for that teacher from your school? How is that possible? Bo Jiao replied naturally. Even if I wasn't her friend, I wouldn't feel that someone like Mengran isn't fit to be a teacher. Wu Zhen pressed closer. That's why you wanted to follow him and deal with him, right? Officer Wu. Bo Jiao's voice was calm. Your conjecture sounds like something you would see in dramas, but it's a pity it's just a thought. I'm just a high school student after all, my results are in the teacher's hands. What do you think I can do? Wu Zhen hadn't expected there to be no progress after asking so many questions. An ordinary person. Staying in this temperature for more than 2 hours was already unbearable. She couldn't understand how the youngster managed to do it. He was so stubborn, she couldn't bite through it no matter what. Wu Zhen picked up her notebook, slamming the door shut. She wanted to see how long this gay could last. The closer it was to the start of the match, the more anxious he would be. She didn't believe that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. The dark tide was lethal to Bojiu. She was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. She felt a chill in her abdomen and felt a dull pain. She reached out and grabbed the leg of the metal table. There were still 20 minutes left. She had to go to the competition. Here we are. Feng Yi should have arrived. When the youth opened his eyes again, there was sweat on his forehead, but it did not affect the clarity in his eyes at all. No one knew what kind of willpower she was relying on to persevere. Time was still ticking away. Feng Yi brought the Qin family's lawyer and went straight to the bureau chief. The branch chief didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what the maiden's sacrifice was all about. However, since the Wu family had informed them that they had caught a suspect and brought him in for questioning, he didn't think it was a big deal. But now, the Qin family's lawyer had appeared. Only then did the bureau chief realize that there was something wrong with this. But since the case was moving forward, it couldn't be casually ended. Chapter 679. The bureau chief wasn't stupid, he didn't want to offend anyone. The Qin family's lawyer had Director Huang's number, hence, it wasn't difficult to contact him. What did you say? Arrest? When did I give the order to arrest someone? Director Huang was confused. The maiden's sacrifice was classified as a top secret, and even if they were to arrest someone, the crime squad would be the ones to do it personally. I understand, if Director Huang didn't give the order, it means your men are abusing their rights. My client is still being interrogated. As a member of Supreme Alliance, he has an important competition today. You should know about it, it's related to esports and he has to participate immediately. Director Huang, it's best if you come over personally. If we lose this competition, be it you, me, or anyone else, it won't be easy. Supreme Alliance? Esports competition? Even if Director Huang didn't play games, he knew how important this competition was to a certain someone. Who would be so reckless as to arrest his team member at this time? Director Huang didn't dare to waste a single second. He was afraid that if he was late, something would really happen. A certain someone wouldn't help him investigate another case. Qingnan Police Station. There was a password on the computer. It wasn't difficult to crack the password on the computer. The police had professionals in this field. However, after looking around, he didn't find any traces of hacking into other computers. Other than Hero, there was only an ordinary laptop on the table. The other hard drives were all normal. He stood up, shaking his head at Wu Zhen. Wu Zhen didn't give up. Take another look, there's definitely something inside. I've already looked through it 3 times. The information on the preview device shows that it only shows the user's official Weibo. There's nothing wrong with this laptop. Wu Zhen's eyes sunk. What about the live stream? Did he do any live streams? The officer shook his head. There isn't any live stream software installed on this computer. Wu Zhen wanted to ask more. At this moment, it wasn't just the officer in charge, even Director Huang strode in. Feng Yi and the Qin family's lawyer followed behind. The moment Director Huang saw Wu Zhen, he immediately understood who was using the crime squad's name to do this. He stopped in his tracks, and his expression was unprecedentedly serious. The person you captured, where is he now? Director Huang. At first, Wu Zhen felt a little guilty at the sight of such a group of people. But on second thought, she was just arresting someone for questioning. She didn't do anything to anyone, so she replied nonchalantly, the suspect is still being interrogated. Director Huang hadn't expected such an attitude from Wu Zhen, his voice turning cold. When did I ever order you to arrest him? How is he a suspect? I believe that every member of the crime squad has the right to arrest and interrogate. Wu Zhen's words made everything sound reasonable. The Qin family's lawyer recognized Wu Zhen. He took a step forward and said faintly, "Since Miss Wu says so, I would like to ask if you have any concrete evidence to prove my client is a suspect." The evidence is still there, before Wu Zhen could finish her sentence. Chapter 680. Wu Zhen's face paled. She hadn't expected the Qin family's lawyer, whom she often saw, to be so merciless. Wu Zhen wanted to say something. The other party only gave her 2 words, "Let him go." Wu Zhen clenched her fists even though she wasn't happy about it. She had to get someone to release Bo Jiu personally. There was a faint red mark on one of her wrists due to the long period of time. But it couldn't be compared to the pain coming from her abdomen. Feng Yi was the first to enter. When he saw Bo Jiu, his eyes dimmed. He turned towards Wu Zhen. "Miss Wu, can't you tell he isn't feeling well? Even if you want to interrogate him, why do you have to do it in such a room? Are you interrogating a suspect or what?" Feng Yi. Bo Jiu stood up, swinging her wrists. Her left hand pressed against her abdomen while her right hand carried Princess. Competition. In that instant, Feng Yi couldn't describe the feeling. He gritted his teeth. "The car is outside. If we go now, we can still make it for the last 5v5 match. What are you waiting for?" The youngster glanced over, her gaze sharp. "Let's go." Feng Yi nodded, glancing at Wu Zhen behind him. The Qin family's lawyer walked over. "You guys go ahead, leave this to me. Don't worry, old friends understand that your team members won't be taken advantage of. Besides, this is the brother that our young master has acknowledged personally. This matter won't end just like that, even if the other party is from the Wu family." "I'm relieved to hear that." Feng Yi didn't stay any longer, entering the car with the youngster. Director Huang stood behind the 2 of them. He felt that the Major Crimes Division had really touched someone's sore spot this time. Even if that someone wasn't around. Once the Qin family's lawyer took action. Not long after, someone far away would receive the news. Director Huang reached out to rub his head, realizing that he only had 2 or 3 strands of hair left. He was puzzled. Why did Wu Zhen pick this youngster out of all people? Didn't she know how much a certain someone doted on the youngster? According to a certain someone's personality, he wouldn't tolerate anyone bullying him. This matter. Even the Wu family's name wouldn't be of any use. The other side. The first thing she did after receiving the phone was to open the live stream channel. It was almost 2:00. The 1v1 had already begun. The situation was unfavorable for Supreme Alliance. After all, the other party was a strong team. In addition, they seemed to have studied every Supreme Alliance member's playstyle. The contestant that was sent out was to deal with Yin Wuyao. Bo Jiu had never seen Uncle in such a difficult fight. Even if he safely returned to the city, his HP would be low. Moreover, every time he returned to the city, it meant that there would be one less tower. This tug-of-war continued for some time. It wasn't easy for Yin Wuyao to kill his opponent with one big move. The tower at the bottom lane was already broken into pieces. The following defense became more and more difficult. Until he failed in the end. Bo Jiu pressed her abdomen and sent a voice message to Lin Feng. 2v2, switch players, you and Yun who will go together. The other side replied immediately, "Okay, that's what we're planning to do." Coco can't deal with the enemy, they're very strong. Bo Jiu had just finished listening to this message. The second message was about to be sent. Chapter 681. All right. When Bo Jiu said this word, her lips were pale to the extreme. But there was a smile on her face. Feng Yi wasn't the only one who knew. Along the way, the youngster's only action was to drink 2 painkillers. Feng Yi watched her worriedly. How were they going to fight the 5v5? But if Spade Z didn't participate, Supreme Alliance would definitely lose. "Do you need me to do anything?" Feng Yi couldn't understand the youngster's condition, but it seemed to be a stomachache. Is it because the interrogation room is too cold and you haven't eaten anything? Bo Jiao held on to her arm. She didn't explain further, glancing up with a sheen of sweat. What time is it now? Feng Yi knew what she meant, turning towards the driver. Take a shortcut. The shortcut is a little bumpy, young Master Jiao's body. Bo Jiao hugged the cat, her voice deep. It's fine. Young Master Jiao, sit tight. The driver's driving skills weren't bad, it was obvious he had been avoiding the media. But along the way, Feng Yi could only see the youngster's pale face, her bent waist against her stomach. It was unbearable. Do you want some hot water? Feng Yi suggested, getting out of the car. Bo Jiao glanced up, her voice raspy due to the pain. Let's head to the venue, give me a cigarette. Cigarettes could stop the pain. Feng Yi watched as the youngster lowered her head to light the cigarette. In that instant, he was reminded of a person who had suffered a wrist injury. At that time, his fingertips had been stained with blood, but he had been focused on the competition. But that time, he hadn't made it. This time, he hoped time would wait for them. Outside the car window, another red light lit up. Bo Jiao was in pain, but her attention didn't shift away from the live stream. In the venue, Lin Feng's character had died once. This wasn't good for Supreme Alliance. Supreme Alliance had lost the previous 1v1. If he were to lose this match again, he would definitely die. Then, all the fans tightened their grip on their clothes. The first revival is less than 20 seconds. Yunhu should be able to hold on for 20 seconds, but he will have to lose a defense tower. The shoutcaster's voice rang out. The situation isn't looking good. Spade Z isn't here either. The other shoutcaster sighed. The presence or absence of the captain will directly affect the morale of the team. Moreover, Supreme Alliance has lost the first round. It seems like there's no way to salvage the situation. Actually, this isn't Supreme Alliance's strongest lineup. Qin Mo isn't here. There's nothing we can do about it. Winning or losing is what matters in a competition, not anything else. Inside the car, Feng Yi could hear the analysis of the two men. He glanced up, glancing at her. They can win. The youngster's voice was calm, but his eyes were bright. He said he would leave me a 5v5, so he will definitely leave it for me. At that moment, Feng Yi didn't say anything else, turning to the driver. Drive faster into the venue, I'll handle the follow-up work. Not until the last moment. He would never give up. This had always been the spirit Supreme Alliance conveyed to everyone. As a manager, he felt that he should not lower himself too much. Wasn't it just another round of drinks with the staff? It was fine as long as he could arrive on time. Lin Feng, who had died once, was clearly more reserved. His fighting style also became more conservative. At this moment, Yunhu, who had been guarding the tower, stopped. He had an empty hand. Chapter 682. Yunhu's black hair was covered with a huge gaming earpiece. His handsome side profile was calm and composed. Coward, use your method and start fighting. Little Spade will be here soon, he might even be watching our match. As a senior, are you going to lose? Yunhu's eyes lit up. I'm going to lose? Lin Feng turned. I'm going to show you right now. Some people weren't suited to using psychological methods. But Lin Feng was the complete opposite. After hearing his good brother's words, his entire person changed. When the corners of his mouth curled up, even his face looked arrogant and domineering. Ha 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 ha, the scum on the other side, come on, I'm going to catch you. Zhu Feng, you sneak attack and tell them. What's wrong with that? Hurry, Tiger, bottom lane. The people on the other side really thought that they were going to team up to take the bottom lane. Who knew that the top lane was still returning to the city? Halfway through, a figure appeared. It was Lin Feng, who had turned invisible. Now that he appeared, he used a big move and a stab. KO. The person who died was speechless. What happened to catching people at the bottom lane? The moment that person finished his sentence. In less than half a minute, another sound effect came from the screen. Double kill. Jungle battle. It turned out that the catch was Yunhu forcing the people at the bottom lane into the jungle near the top lane. After Lin Feng killed the first person, he turned back to surround the second person with Yunhu. Some people said that only the Yunfeng duo could execute such a coordination. Chemistry. It was as if he had penetrated into their every move. Neat claps. They continued their ambush. This wasn't an easy win. When the word of victory rang out, Lin Feng removed his earpiece, looking at Yunhu. Tell me, how am I a coward? I don't know how domineering I am. Yunhu stood up. At first, he didn't say anything. Instead, he reached out and pulled the guy in front of him into his arms. He smiled faintly, but it was filled with black-bellied intent. MMH, you are so handsome I can't describe it. Ha ha ha, tiger, you have good taste. Lin Feng laughed heartily and patted his brother's shoulder. Our 10 years of friendship is because you speak the truth. You must maintain this advantage. The opposing team also took off their headphones and asked the person beside them, is he usually like this? Always. I really didn't expect that I would be killed twice by such a person. My condolences. Don't underestimate someone with a low EQ. The couple's fans looked at each other. Would such a slow person have any bones left after meeting Yunda? However, none of this mattered now. The important thing was that it was a draw with 1 win and 1 loss. Now it all depended on the 5v5. Everyone turned their attention to the dueling area. There was 1 person missing. If the contestants on the list didn't show up, the match would be automatically judged as the winner. 30 seconds passed. There were no changes to the seats on the opponent's stands. The commentator sighed regretfully and was about to pull the microphone over. There was a swoosh sound. The door swung open. The cameras focused on the youngster they were most familiar with. That person, one hand pressed against the wall, his thin lips pale but his voice was clear. I choose assassin, with jungler skills. The equipment in the esports arena was very advanced. Usually, there would be voice recognition equipment. The moment the youngster finished his sentence, a line of words appeared on the big screen along with the sound effect. Chapter 683. In an instant, the crowd was filled with cheers. Every Spade fan was looking at the youngster walking towards the arena. Lin Feng smiled too. Only the other 4 members near the youngster paused. Feng Shang stuttered, "Oh idol, why your face?" Bojio's face was so pale that even her lips were affected. Shui Yaoyao noticed the youngster's movements after sitting down, her eyes filled with worry. She still remembered how painful it had been the last time His Highness Jiao had been like this. As a girl, she knew very well that some people with menstrual cramps could even faint when their relatives came to visit. This wasn't an exaggeration. Shui Yaoyao sat beside Bojio, her gaze sweeping over the youngster's hand, and she stilled. It was a handcuff mark. What exactly had His Highness Jiao experienced before coming here? Had he really been invited by the police to understand the situation? The youngster glanced over, her gaze dark. Focus on the competition, baby Feng, you and Yao Yao will go together. Yes. Swoosh. The game officially began. A competition was a competition. There wasn't time for anyone to pay attention. But even so, the opposing team noticed Bojio's abnormality. This is a chance. Kill Spade Z, Roger. The 2 players in the bottom lane and middle lane merged into one team, skimming towards the wilderness. Spade Z was an assassin, so he would definitely attack the beasts first. The youngster was indeed there. After getting the red beast, he didn't have much HP left. The two of them saw this opportunity and wanted to launch a sneak attack. But they didn't expect. The opponent actually turned invisible at this moment. And the Supreme Alliance could clearly hear the youngster's orders. Feng Shang, Yao Yao, Wild Red. With such a close distance, it was the best to stop the enemy from attacking the wilderness. Feng Shang and Yao Yao retreated, skimming towards the wilderness at the same time. The enemy knew they couldn't leave, so they chose to fight directly. Anyway, one of them had stolen Spade Z's red beast, so his attack had a slowing effect. 2 against 2. They might not lose. But they didn't expect. Spade Z, who had less than a third of his HP left, didn't return to the city. Instead, he hid in the bushes, and when the battle started, he stabbed over. KO. He had forcefully obtained the first clear of the battle. Feng Shang and Yao Yao didn't have much HP left. But in this situation, the other person didn't dare to fight anymore and quickly ran back. The youngster moved the mouse and followed behind that person. The man jumped into the tower. Bo Jiu paused. Clenching his fists, he turned around and ran towards the center of his city. Why didn't you cross the tower to kill him? What a pity. How is he going to cross the tower with that kind of HP? Besides, Spade Z probably doesn't have any big moves left and the opponent isn't low on HP. He'll be the one dying if he crosses the tower, bro. Taking one life is already impressive. Supreme Alliance is probably going to win. Not necessarily. Have you forgotten about their assassin? The opponent's assassin, Lin Chintao. It was probably because Lin Chintao had been too quiet that everyone had forgotten. This team was so strong because of Lin Chintao. He was one of the top assassins in the country. His skills weren't any worse than Spade Z. In the next second, he returned a life to Supreme Alliance. Not only did he succeed in killing Coco, he even stole the blue beasts in Supreme Alliance's jungle. Chapter 684. This match is going to be tough for Supreme Alliance. Everyone knows Lin Chintao's assassin is getting better at the later stages. I'm curious, is Spade Z's assassin better than Lin Chintao's? It seems like this isn't just a battle between teams, it's also a battle of the vice-captain's ability. It's here again. Lin Chintao killed another person. It's 2-1, no, it's a tie. The moment Lin Chintao's blade landed, Spade Z immediately took his second life. Just like that, the two of them started to retaliate. Lin Chintao was quiet because he could see the youngster's discomfort. In fact, he had been anticipating this match before the start of the competition. Ever since he had teamed up with Little Spade on the Japanese server. He had been itching for a huge battle. But when the match started, the youngster didn't appear. Until the 5v5, when he sat in front of the computer with a pale face. Lin Chintao knew this wasn't the match he wanted. But when the youngster took his first life, Lin Chintao smiled. He broke into a smile. The best way to respect your opponent is to give it your all. Little Spade, regardless of how uncomfortable you are, this is a competition, I won't be merciful. KO. The third life. To a game character with low HP, an assassin like Lin Chintao was a nightmare. On Supreme Alliance's side, everyone except for Bo Jiu and Shui Yao Yao had died once. Supreme Alliance is indeed in trouble, the shoutcaster said. The other person tilted his head. That might not be the case, the number of kills is clearly the same. Haven't you noticed? The shoutcaster's eyes dimmed. Since the start of the match, Spade Z hasn't even had the time to fight in the jungle. With the reminder, the other shoutcaster reacted. You mean Spade Z's teammate? Other than Lin Chintao, there's Tianjing, his killing partner. On Supreme Alliance's side, Lin Feng and Yun, who have already appeared in the 2v2 and north of Yin Mountain, is in the 1v1. As for the rest, who do you think can stop Tianjing? No one. In other words, the outcome of this match had already been decided. Before the semifinals, there had never been a match as long as this one. Be it Lin Shintao's team or Supreme Alliance's team, the previous team battle had been exceptionally swift. Today, however, it was dragged out a little longer. In the end, both sides only had one defense tower left, and the rest was the city. At this moment, life and death became crucial. Of the two teams, only Spade Z and Lin Chintao hadn't died. When the pain came, Bo Jio's fingers paused for a moment. But it only paused for a moment. Then, he led his troops to the top of the road. Shui Yaoyao, who was waiting to be revived, looked at the youngster's hand. Her wrist moved along with the mouse, rubbing against the mouse pad again and again. How much it hurts. Shui Yaoyao didn't know. However, she had seen His Highness Zhou's pain. He was very clear in his heart. How was the youngster holding on? At this moment, the camera panned to her face. At this moment. Only then did people notice that the young man's expression seemed a little off. Pale lips and sweat on his forehead. No matter how handsome his side profile was. It was also heart-wrenching white. Lin Feng stood up and turned to look at Feng Yi. Chapter 685. What exactly had he been through? No one knew. Some of Spade Z's fans started to panic. However, they knew very well that any excessive noise at this time would affect the youth's performance. It's here. The real battle between the two assassins. Lin Chintao stood in front of the city, his long spear behind him, his robe fluttering. Wait a minute, it isn't just Lin Chintao, there's also Tianjing. In that instant, everyone's heart was clenched. It wasn't realistic for Spade Z to turn back. But it was obvious that the youngster had no intention of turning back. The only thing left in those extremely black eyes was the other party's city. 1v2. It's a 1v2 now. You mean to go head on? This is Supreme Alliance's only chance, the others haven't revived yet. As long as Spade Z wins, we can take down the city. But it's impossible to win 1v2, that's Lin Chintao and Tianjing. Wait a minute, what's that? On the screen, Spade Z leaped to the side, but instead of attacking Lin Chintao, he dodged into the bushes before stabbing towards Tianjing. Due to the speed, no one could see the youngster's movements clearly. All they could see was the silver gleam on the youngster's uniform. The screen was filled with silver, and everyone couldn't help but suck in a deep breath. 3,000 knife cutting. That's Almighty Qin's 3,000 knife cutting. In the past, there had been Qin fans who had looked down on Spade Z and tried to pull him into a CP. At this moment, even they were stunned. 3,000 knife cutting. The reason why it was called 3,000 knife cutting was because of the perfect combination of assassination angle and maneuvering. When killing, the speed was so fast that it created a visual illusion. The movement couldn't be seen, only the flash of silver. Even the movement of his sleeves seemed to carry an invincible aura. Beautiful. Even the shoutcaster couldn't help exclaiming. The next moment, the music started playing. KO. Tianjing fell heavily to the ground. The silver gleam hadn't landed. The youngster's fingers clicked. It was a rhythmic movement. She waved the mouse, tilting it to the left, forming an arc of attack. Lin Chintao did not retreat. Instead, he welcomed the attack with a big move. The youth began to move beautifully again. But this time, Lin Chintao spoke up. Let's die together, little Spade. Double kill. When these two words flashed across the screen, people didn't even have time to be surprised. The youngster's hand seemed to have missed. The last drop of HP was also wiped out by the minions that came out. Home. This was the first time since the game started. This was the first time people had seen a young man die in battle. The two commentators also paused for a moment. What he did just now. There's something wrong with his technique. He must have been affected by his body. In other words, if it wasn't for his discomfort, Spade Z could have taken a step back, recovered some HP, and attacked the city. When the young man uttered the word, home, Lin Sanjiu's eyes widened. Everyone felt their breaths tighten. Supreme Alliance was annihilated. Meanwhile, the three of them had already been revived. Shui Yaoyao gripped the mouse tightly. 1918, it was too late. With 4 seconds left, the enemy had already brought his troops to Supreme Alliance's city center. Shui Yaoyao ran out. Just then, there was a crisp and piercing sound effect. Chapter 686. Failed? Supreme Alliance, lost? The sound in the esports venue seemed to have been blocked by something. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Their eyes stared blankly and their expressions were blank. Shui Yaoyao had just revived, her fingers still in a charging position. But it was too late. The words dimmed. Shui Yaoyao's heart felt empty. The youngster's handsome side profile was still imprinted on the screen, the fringe on his forehead damp from the sweat, covering his eyes. Other than his thin lips and nose, all his expression was covered by his silver hair. However, people couldn't erase that scene from their minds. Because the youngster had never looked like this. The corners of his mouth were no longer curled up, the white cat was still nestled beside his hand, looking a little dazed. Supreme Alliance, lost? They still couldn't believe it. Especially when they saw the youngster. Every Spade Z fan couldn't help but reach out to cover their lips. They were afraid they would cry. They still remembered the first time they were infatuated with the youngster. Some people were there because of the first clear king who had appeared out of nowhere in Area C, who had never died before. Some of them were because of an online live broadcast. At that time, the youngster swept his long sword and there was no one within a meter radius. Some of them were because of a video. That person looked straight into the camera and said, "Justice may be late, but it will never be absent." Now, such an indestructible person had lost. He had worked so hard. Everyone could see his hard work. Someone had to give a concluding speech for this match. The shoutcaster cleared his throat. The results are out, the semi-finalists are. The Supreme Alliance members sitting in their chairs couldn't hear the sounds around them, as though their pressure points had been sealed. That kind of depression and sadness seemed to have seeped into everyone's heart. Coco lowered his head, his fingers clenched tightly. He couldn't accept it. He really couldn't accept it. The fans also had this unwillingness to accept it. If Almighty Qin was here, it wouldn't be like this. Spade Z's last move was too risky. If he had turned back, he might have been able to buy some time. Anyway, I don't understand why he was made the vice-captain. That's enough, didn't you see Big Spade? He doesn't have to participate if he's not feeling well. That's right. He's not feeling well and yet he came to compete. He even implicated our Coco and Almighty Lin. I'm really speechless. Pa. Lin Feng pulled out his chair. He immediately stood up. He looked at some of the fans behind him. If it wasn't for Little Spade, we wouldn't have been able to make it this far. The results are right there, 12 kills, 1 death and 7 assists. In the end, he was the only one holding the fort. We were the ones dragging him down, not the other way around. Lin Feng's words put some people on the spot. They didn't think that they were wrong. I, God Lin, have changed. If you speak like that, we won't like it. Lin Feng stuffed a hand into his pocket. Up to you. Do you like it or not? Those people still wanted to say something. At this moment, all the Supreme Alliance members stood up and stood behind Lin Feng. There was no such thing as a sore loser. Just a little. No one could bully their team members. Even if they were fans. Chapter 687. But the next second, the youngster walked over. He placed his left hand on Lin Feng's shoulder. When he glanced up, it was still that face. Even though it was pale to the point of being devoid of blood. But he still had silver hair and black eyes, so handsome that it took one's breath away. There's no need. It was a very light word. Lin Feng glanced down. The youngster's wrist was so red that it looked like it was about to bleed. Even so, was there a need? It wasn't necessary for her. The youngster knew what the world was like. And he knew what human nature was like. A loss is a loss. The youngster stood there. Tall and straight like a pine tree in winter. But even so. Shui Yaoyao saw the youngster's clenched fists hidden under the uniform. It must be painful. During the game. What exactly was he relying on? And now, what was he relying on for the youngster to stand there and admit defeat? It was to preserve the last shred of Supreme Alliance's dignity. Some of the fans couldn't say anything else. After all, everyone could see the youngster's state. Even if he lost. He didn't have any intention of finding an excuse. Shui Yaoyao turned her head. If she had been stronger, the outcome wouldn't have been like this. When did we start to learn to cry? When did we feel sad, wronged, and disappointed? When did we learn to force the tears back into our eyes and stare unwaveringly at the gazes coming from all directions? There was a type of growth that always made people wear armor and not fear the darkness. It was because they believed that they would see the light one day. The ceremony always had to end perfectly. The youngster represented Supreme Alliance. He had to go up and shake hands with the other team's captain. Right at this moment. Clang. The door was pushed open. A tall and slender figure strolled over from the light of time. The members of Supreme Alliance froze the moment they turned around. That person had a handsome face that everyone present was familiar with. His chiseled side profile carried a coldness that was as sharp as a blade. The combat uniform he was wearing made him look like a commander from Star Trek. The white gloves on his hands fit perfectly without leaving any gaps. If it was a name, shouting it out would make people feel powerful. That was the kind of existence he was. Brother Mo. The youngster hadn't started. Then, she was pulled into the man's embrace. Following that, a magnetic voice rang out. You're being bullied like this when I'm not around. You're really something. One could imagine the uproar at the scene. It wasn't just that there were thousands of people watching. There were also live broadcasts on various major online platforms. Manager Feng stretched out his hand and pressed his aching forehead. Why didn't anyone inform him that the Almighty was back? He hugged her as if there was no one else around. How many questions would he have to deal with this afternoon? The Almighty was really stirring up trouble the moment he came back. However, this was also good. Sometimes, he really didn't know how to comfort little Spade. He had seen a lot of things, but when he faced the youth, he always felt that he was not a high school student. Unlike the Almighty. It seemed that no matter what the youth looked like. In front of him, he was a little brother who should be pampered. Bojo didn't feel like she was being bullied, but because of the Almighty's scent, she couldn't help burying her face into his chest. Chapter 688. As a single person, Lin Chintao hadn't expected to witness such a scene during a handshake. He coughed heavily. Hey, pervert Qin, at least show me some respect. Qin Mo arched a brow, glancing over and reaching his right hand out. Lin Chintao was about to start chatting when Qin Mo interrupted him calmly. Qin Mo interrupted him faintly. I watched the 5v5 live stream just now. Your method of killing isn't bad. Lin Chintao froze. Was pervert Qin praising him? Was it going to rain red? Qin Mo continued, 2 against 1, where's your integrity as the top assassin in the country? Lin Chintao. Wait a minute, who said that heroes couldn't be 2 against 1? Everyone was 2 against 1. Besides, it didn't matter how many people there were in a team battle, one shouldn't be afraid and just fight. Why was it that when it came to him, 2 against 1, it was shameless? On the screen, Lin Shantao's expression was deep. Qin Mo didn't give him a chance to express his thoughts, releasing his hand, his tone casual but bloodthirsty. I will return the favor in the future. Lin Shantao. No, Almighty, be reasonable, didn't I just kill your little spade once? But now, where's your integrity? Where's your bearing? What an exciting scene. The shoutcaster was needed to smooth things over even though the handshake wasn't that exciting. Yeah, it seems like this failure has ignited Qin Mo's competitive spirit. This might not be a bad thing for Supreme Alliance. But it's a pity that Supreme Alliance didn't enter the semifinals. Everything has come to an end. Come to an end? Ha ha ha, old song, have you forgotten? According to the rules, there will always be a revival match. Of course, only one team has the right to participate in the revival match, and that is the team with the most MVPs. Look at Spade Z's results. Even if he lost, his total score is still higher than the winning team. Supreme Alliance still has hope of entering the National League. As long as they can win 3 matches, they will be revived. Of course, it won't be easy. According to the previous years, they have to defeat all the top 10 teams in the country, so it will be difficult to win completely. No matter what, there is still hope. This was the first time Bo Jiao heard of such a competition. She arched a brow and asked Qin Mo, revival match? Yes. Qin Mo glanced sideways, his breath caressing her ear. So it doesn't matter even if we lose, we can still win. Bo Jiao placed a hand on her abdomen, her lips pale. Finally, there was a smile in her eyes. Lin Shantao. The two of them were whispering. Was no one going to stop them? Knowing that they still had a chance to participate in the competition, everyone in Supreme Alliance couldn't hide their excitement. Even some fans felt the same way. He was so excited that he wanted to rush out and run a few rounds. In fact, the real fans just wanted to see these people continue to play, even if it was just one more match. There was always someone or a group of people who carried all the memories of your youth. To them, Supreme Alliance was a vessel. Many years later, they might forget the feeling of liking someone so much. However, he couldn't forget those people in battle uniforms. Their eyes were red, but they still stood tall and straight. They were Supreme Alliance. Chapter 689. She had been able to hold on during the competition. But now, it had ended. The pain had been excruciating. Once they were out, she asked for a cigarette from Feng Yi. But the moment she took a puff, it was snatched away. It was the Almighty. His deep gaze swept past the youngster's hand, his gaze cold. Carry you or carry you, choose one. Bo Jiao leaned back, chuckling lightly. Brother Mo, I'm not that weak. Qin Mo didn't want to waste any more time on this topic, bending over and carrying her up. At this moment, some of the fans had yet to leave. A wave of shrieks erupted. Bo Jiao paused, the only thing she could think of was carrying him, at least she wouldn't have to press against the Almighty's back. Good my ass. Feng Yi wanted to rub his head again. He could predict that the number of calls he would receive would increase tenfold. How was he going to explain? He could just say that little Spade wasn't feeling well. Yes, that was it. Young master. Even Deputy Zhang, who had followed Qin Mo back from America, froze when he saw his young master carrying a youngster out. Lin Shantao, who had left at the same time. After enduring for a long time, he finally couldn't take it anymore. Lin Shantao exclaimed in the Alliance's WeChat group. What's wrong, Woolly Tao Tao, what happened to you? Sanpang asked. Didn't you win the competition? Lin Shantao replied, I might as well not win, that pervert, Qin Mo is back? My nemesis is back, why did you only tell me now? Lin Shantao replied, didn't you watch the live stream? I didn't. The world's most handsome fatty asked, when did I tell you I watched the live stream? Lin Shantao replied, then you said I won. I was just comforting you. F***ck, it can't be, you really won? What about Supreme Alliance? I still have to fight with my nemesis. It wasn't just the world's most handsome fatty that exploded. The others who had just finished their competition were also confused. Lin Shintao replied, this group is done. This is how you guys respond when I say I won. It's mainly because Little Spade wouldn't let you win. Lin Shintao looked at that sentence and decided to tell the truth. He's not feeling well. Not feeling well? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Lin Shintao tried to recall. There was a red mark on his wrist, but he seemed to be in pain because of his stomach. In reality, it wasn't because of a stomachache. It was because of her period. But the Almighty still knew that once he got on the car, he gave Adjutant Zhang 3 words. Go to the hospital. How could he go to the hospital with this kind of illness? Bo Jiao paused. Brother Mo, it's an old problem. I'll be fine after resting at home and drinking some warm water. What kind of stomach illness can be cured by drinking some warm water? Qin Mo turned his head and looked at the youngster sitting on his left. Bo Jiao pressed against her stomach, her lips pressed into a straight line. I just don't want to go to the hospital. I'm not in a good mood after losing the competition and I know my body well. I just want to sleep now. That was indeed a good reason. At the very least, it was true for youths who were in their rebellious phase. Chapter 690. He probably hadn't expected his young master to be so intimate with someone. Deputy Zhang, who was driving, glanced at the rear mirror subconsciously. The Almighty's scent was still fragrant. It was like the cool and refreshing Kunlun snow mountain with the scent of pine and cypress trees in summer. It was easy to lower one's guard. But she didn't really fall asleep. She couldn't fall asleep with the Almighty's finger in that position. It was a special period and she had to be more vigilant. But the pressure on her lower abdomen was comforting. It eased the pain to a large extent. From this angle, when Qin Mo glanced over, he could see the faint shadow of the youngster's lowered lashes. This position isn't your stomach. What exactly is wrong with you? It was a simple question. But it hit her center of gravity. Bo Jiao replied calmly, my intestines hurt, it happens whenever I catch a cold. Is that so? Qin Mo asked slowly. Bo Jiao wasn't sure if the Almighty was suspicious and was about to move. The Almighty pressed her right hand down. Why are you moving, aren't you sleeping? Bo Jiao's lower abdomen was still sinking, but to avoid suspicion, she said, I'll change my position. Qin Mo glanced at the youngster before replying faintly, the car is big enough, that's fine too. Bo Jiao realized that the Almighty had just finished his sentence. He reached out and her entire back slid towards his shoulder. Then her head rested on his thighs. Just as the Almighty had said, the car was big enough. Hence, it wasn't uncomfortable for her to lie on her side. Even though she couldn't straighten her legs, they could be placed in front of her. But this position made her feel as though the Almighty was treating her like a princess. This time, Princess was in the passenger seat. When he saw his master's actions, he stretched his neck and meowed. Qin Mo's handsome face turned over, his brows furrowing. The moment Princess turned, he fell silent. This cat really knew how to look at people. He had never been so obedient when he was with her. The car was warm. Moreover, it was such a comfortable position. Once she relaxed, the fatigue slowly spread throughout her body. The Almighty didn't mind her. She didn't have to be unreasonable. It wasn't every day that she had the chance to sleep on the Almighty's thighs. The main thing was that if he closed his eyes, at least he wouldn't have to answer the Almighty's questions. Moreover, there were very few times like this. Only she moved. The Almighty would lower his eyes. His features were extremely handsome, and his entire body gave off a sense of abstinence. Bo Jiao watched the face that was inches away from her. She had the urge to take the Almighty home and raise him. The pain in his lower abdomen was slowly alleviating. The speed of the car was also very moderate, neither too fast nor too slow. It had a hypnotic effect. In her half-asleep state, she could still smell the man's unique minty tobacco scent. Instinctively, she shifted her face towards a warmer spot. Chin Mo lowered his head and looked at the youngster's pale and colorless side profile. His gaze moved to the circle of red marks, and even his breath became colder. Deputy Zhang still didn't understand why the young master seemed to have become a different person the moment the young man fell asleep. On the other side, Chin Mo had already called the Chin Group's legal department. Lawyer Song, the lawyer who was still at the police station because of Bo Jiu, paused when he saw the caller ID. A hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. Boss Chin? Chapter 691. Chin Mo's fingers brushed past the red mark, his eyes filled with a violent rage. Where did you go with Feng Yi today? At this point, Lawyer Song wasn't going to hide the truth. Besides, he knew how smart his boss was. The police station. The moment the three words left his mouth, Chin Mo didn't seem surprised. Chin Mo didn't seem surprised at all. Instead, he asked the second question, who kidnapped my brother? Lawyer Song paused. It was Miss Wu. According to her, young Master Jiu is related to a crime squad case. The higher-ups ordered her to arrest the suspect, which is why she conducted an interrogation. Interrogation? Chin Mo's voice was icy. Since when did the crime squad conduct an interrogation in a normal police station? This isn't normal. Why would Huang Zhong allow such an arrest? Lawyer Song retreated a little, shaking his head. Director Huang doesn't know. Good, very good. When Chin Mo said those three words, his eyes were cold. Go and find out who gave Wu Jun the convenience to arrest people as she pleased. Lawyer Song hesitated. What about the Wu family? Find them all. Chin Mo lifted his lids. He looked indifferent, but anyone who met his gaze could feel the coldness from the bottom of their hearts. Lawyer Song knew Boss Chin was going to be ruthless. But was the young master of the Bo family that important? So important that even Boss Chin had to take action against the Wu family? It was obvious Chin Mo wasn't just going to take action against the Wu family, he was going to do it personally. Go to the Wu family. Chin Mo hung up the phone. His finger slid across the youngster's wrist as he casually said three words. But those who were familiar with him knew. The more nonchalant Chin Mo was, the more dangerous he was. Deputy Zhang couldn't help asking, are we going just like that? Should we bring old Masterin along? Do you think it's appropriate to bring my grandfather along? Chin Mo countered. Deputy Zhang immediately fell silent. Even though she wasn't in a deep sleep, Bo Jiu couldn't hear clearly what they were saying. She just knew someone was talking. She buried her face once more. The burying attracted all of Chin Mo's attention. Even though he had a thought that shouldn't be happening at this moment. But when he looked at the face nestled between his legs, he really wanted to. He really wanted to do something to the young man in the car. And he really did that. The car entered the tunnel. All the light is covered. In the light, Chin Mo lowered his head, his thin lips kissing the youngster's wrist with the red mark. It was impossible not to be seen. Deputy Zhang's eyes widened in shock. Even with his strong mental fortitude, he had never thought that one day he would see his young master kissing a man. Although it was only his wrist. But the doting look in his eyes was real, and it was frightening. The hand holding the keyboard couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. However, the young master didn't seem to mind at all. The calmness in his eyes made Deputy Zhang understand one thing clearly. In the future, when he took over the driver's job, he would probably see this kind of scene often. But, who could tell him, why did the young master suddenly fall in love with a boy? Satisfied with the closeness of the person in his arms, Qin Mo smiled, his fingers caressing the youngster's hair until they walked out of the tunnel. Chapter 692. The Wu family's butler hadn't expected Qin Mo to come at this time. His face lit up, and the moment the car entered, he called out in a low voice, "Hurry and inform young miss that young Master Qin is here." Yes. The servants trotted away, making the villa seem to be full of life. However, after the car stopped, Qin Mo didn't go out immediately. Instead, he used a backup cushion to replace his left leg, allowing the youngster to sink into it. His fingers caressed the delicate side of her face before he pushed the car door open. Qin Mo, who hadn't changed out of his uniform, looked like an interstellar commander straight out of a comic. Those who hadn't seen him before stopped in their tracks and turned to look at him. Courtesy before force had always been the Qin family's style. Hence, there wasn't a hint of anger on Qin Mo's face. That wasn't all. The corner of his mouth still had a faint smile on it. The more old Master Wu looked at him, the more he liked him. He held on to his dragon-headed walking stick, the smile spreading across his face. "Little Mo, why are you here today? I heard from your grandfather that you went overseas to recuperate. Why are you back so soon?" "I wasn't supposed to be back today, but fortunately, I'm back today." Qin Mo's voice was calm. "If not, I wouldn't even know if my people were caught." Old Master Wu stilled. Caught? Who would dare to catch someone from the Qin family? Old Master Wu didn't understand the reason behind it. Wu Zhen, who had just come downstairs, was clear. She hadn't changed out of her uniform. Her fingers tightened when she heard Qin Mo's words. Qin Mo glanced up. Coincidentally, the person in question is here. Old Master Wu was a leader in the business world and could tell that something was wrong. He turned his head and said, "Little Mo, did Zhen do something to upset you? That's why you made this trip. You should know that Zhen has been a strong-willed person since she was young. Now that she's in such a profession, she's a little stubborn. But it can't be helped, that's her profession. She's working so hard to catch up to you." "Grandpa. Brother Mo, I don't know who told you, but I know very well that arresting Supreme Alliance members at this time will incur your disgust. But a case is a case, and we can't let any suspect go. This is what you said yourself in the past. I'm just doing my job. The maiden's sacrifice case involves too many people, and finding the mastermind behind the scenes is urgent. I've always been focused on the case and not the person. Fu Jiu is a suspect, and I'm just eliminating or confirming this suspicion." Old Master Wu frowned when he heard this. It turned out that the useless young master of the Fu family was the one instigating this. "Brad Mo, look at what Zhen said. There must be some misunderstanding. It's not worth it for an outsider." Chapter 693. Brother Mo. Wu Zhen was on the verge of breaking down when she heard the word court. She had never expected him to do this to her. It was all because of Fu Jiu. Wu Zhen wanted to chase him back. But it was useless. The servants stood there, watching the scene in a daze. No one knew what had happened. She just wanted Wu Zhen not to run so fast. Wu Zhen pointed at the servant and told her to scram. When he went out again, he only had time to see the arc of the Hummer. She couldn't take it. She didn't care about the age of the person beside her and kicked. "You blind thing, don't you know how to stop him?" The auntie, who was usually in charge of cooking, couldn't take Wu Zhen's kick. She clutched her stomach in pain. Wu Zhen's unwillingness and resentment stemmed from within. Old Master Wu's heart ached for his granddaughter. All right, if you can't stop him, you can explain in the future. But Brother Mo doesn't listen to me at all." Wu Zhen wiped her tears. "Grandpa, I can't go to court. You have to help me." Old Master Wu patted Wu Zhen's shoulder. "Don't worry, Grandpa won't let you suffer." That brat Mo was obviously instigated. But you too, why did you have to mess with Supreme Alliance at this time? Of course, Wu Jun wouldn't tell old Master Wu that it was all because of her jealousy. This was because she could no longer stand the fact that all the information that person sent out was about the young man. Even his expression wasn't his usual self. Why? What right did that scheming gay have to get all of this? Why couldn't she? She never watched esports competitions, but she specially watched today's match. When that gay lost, she felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Everything was in line with her expectations. The fans questioned the gay's qualifications to be the vice-captain. But there was one thing. Wu Jun thought she had lost the competition. That gay's position in Brother Mo's heart would be lowered. But she never expected Big Brother Mo to blame it on her. Spade Z was good at pretending to be wronged. Wu Jun clenched her fists. If a person was so important to Brother Mo, all the more reason for her to think of ways to get rid of this person. Grandpa, we have to talk to Grandpa about this. Wu Jun lifted her head. The young Master Fu who is contacting Brother Mo isn't a good person. Old Master Wu was naturally on his granddaughter's side. Moreover, the Yin family needed to mediate the matter in court. Don't worry, Grandpa will go find your grandpa in a while. I won't let you suffer. Perhaps people were like this, never considering their own mistakes. Those people always like to hurt in the name of love. Moreover, he would not feel that he was wrong. Unless they get what they want, the whole world is letting them down. It was obvious that Wu Jun was such a person. She wouldn't think about how she had framed Bojiu, she would only use her own thoughts to guess others. However, there was one thing that she did not know. Bojiu didn't care about her. Lying in the car, her abdomen was still hurting, so she didn't sleep well. She probably knew that the Almighty had gotten out of the car once and came back, but it wasn't real. However, when she opened her eyes, the car was slowly driving into the best hospital in Jiang City. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.